Hello, my name is Mark Hilley. I'm a member of the class of 1997, and I have the pleasure of serving as the CEO of the Association of Graduates and the Air Force Academy Foundation. You know, Sabre Society donors are truly the essential participants in all of the work that we're able to do here every day at the Association and Foundation. Our guest today, Colonel Brian Neff, will give you some insight into the difference that you're making in the everyday lives of our cadets, as well as all you do for the future of our Academy. You bolster our academic programs, you're helping our Academy recruit the very best and brightest our nation has to offer, and you're making a difference between what is a sufficient cadet experience to one that's truly excellent. We thank you for all you're doing to ensure the future safety of our country in supporting the Academy.
Greetings. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelly Banet, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Senior Vice President for Development for the Air Force Academy Foundation and Association of Graduates. Before we get started today, I do want to take a brief moment to speak about philanthropy and the impact of both the Air Force Academy Fund and the Sabre Society on both the Foundation, the AOG, and USAFA. As you know, the Sabre Society includes graduates, parents, and friends who contribute $1,000 or more in unrestricted funds or $10,000 and more in restricted funds. The Air Force Academy Fund is an unrestricted fund that enables the foundation to support USAFA and its mission of developing leaders of character for the nation. Gifts can also help provide additional funding for cadet programs and the Academy's immediate strategic priorities as determined by the superintendent. The Air Force Academy Fund also supports graduate programs and services that ensure the foundation is able to continue connecting donors to the programs that they support. Before I welcome our guest today, I extend my sincere thanks for being a Sabre Society member and your generous support of the Academy. It's my pleasure to welcome one of my favorite faculty members at USAFA and one of the Academy's Vice Deans, Colonel Brian Neff.
Well, thank you for bringing me in here. First of all, please call me Brian here as we go throughout this today. But I'm Colonel Brian Neff. I'm the Vice Dean for Academics at the Air Force Academy. Was brought here in 2018 to serve as our permanent professor for electrical and computer engineering. My career, I came on active duty in 1999. I was not an Air Force Academy graduate. My wife is. She's a class of 97 graduate. We have lots of debates about the different experiences we had, but I think it's I'm pretty certain at this point that she had more opportunities as a student at the Air Force Academy than I did as a student at the at the University of Pittsburgh. But my career took me through mostly developmental engineering. In 2007, I graduated from the Air Force Test Pilot School. At that point, I spent most of the remainder of my career up until 2018 doing various flight test work and also teaching at the Test Pilot School. It was while I was teaching at Test Pilot School that I gained a passion for the educational mission. And when the opportunity came to apply for the permanent professor for electrical and computer engineering in 2018, I jumped on it. So I served my first 4 years here in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and that was where I really got to know how well the Air Force Academy Foundation could really increase what we can do inside of each of our departments at the Air Force Academy. And then most recently, for the last 2 years, I've been serving as the Vice Dean for Academics.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. Expanding on something you just said, in a broad sense, how does the Dean of Faculty office, our 20 departments, 30 majors, 20 plus minors, how do they benefit from private support, and how does that private support enhance the academic experience?
Yeah, so first and foremost, what I'll say is higher education is an an extremely competitive environment right now. Our students the cadets that are coming here, they have plenty of opportunities, and they're being recruited from top tier institutions all over the country. And when they're being recruited, they're being shown all of the opportunities that exist at some of these top tier civilian institutions, where funding and external donations is also a very competitive environment as well. But I guess the best thing that I would say from where the Academy or Air Force Academy Foundation really assists with our mission is providing that margin of excellence and keeping our departments not only relevant, but perhaps even at the forefront of the different academic disciplines. And I would, after 6 years of serving at this institution, I'd put any one of our disciplines as one of the top-rated disciplines or ranked disciplines in the nation.
Excellent. Speaking of one of our great programs, you've had a critical role in building the Martinson Honors Program. Can you tell us a little bit about your role and what that program has meant to USAFA over your tenure here?
Well, sure. Yeah. So the Martinson Honors Program has been probably one of the most exciting things that I've done here in my 6 years. So if you look back at the history of what used to be called the Academy Scholars Program, it came from very what I would say modest roots, if you will. The goal was to bring a cohort of top tier academic students together, put them through a variety of interesting courses that are taught with perhaps means or taught in a way that doesn't necessarily scale to the larger institution, more discussion-based, more project-based. But that all changed a few years ago when Mr. John Martinson gave a very large donation, not only to our institution, but several other institutions. He has a passion for honors programs, and he invested heavily in about 5 different schools at that time. And so right now, what we're realizing is we get a very large donation each year into this program, and what it's enabling is key opportunities for every one of our honors program students. The first 2 years of that donation were really spent kind of building the program up and making it one of the top tier honors programs in the nation. But then more recently, we've been able to kind of take that a step further and start to use it as a recruiting tool as well. And so I think one of the highlights or one of the best phone calls I've received in the last 6 years, I had about an hour-long conversation with a young man who's part of the class of 27. And he had offers from Yale, Berkeley, Stanford, and a variety of other top-tier schools. And I was listening to his mother in the background on this conversation, and we were talking for the better part of an hour. And it was very clear that his mother wanted him to go to Yale. And we're talking, and he was asking me questions, and you could tell that this young man wanted to come to the Air Force Academy because he was really passionate about the leadership, the service aspects, and not to mention the top tier academics that we have here. And after talking to this young man for about an hour, it was funny to listen to his mother in the background, and you could hear her. She's like, "I really wanted you to go to Yale, but Yale didn't spend an hour on the phone with you telling you about all the opportunities that you're going to have." And so I think that kind of sums up what this Martinson Honors Program has meant. I kind of liken it to a buffet. The students can walk in there and take any opportunity that they want at this point, and we've got the resources to ensure that they can see those opportunities through.
So maybe a follow-on there. You talk a little bit about spending time on the phone. And you spent a good portion, I think, of your time doing the recruiting and almost serving as an admissions liaison to the Martinson Honors Program. Why have you chosen to kind of invest your time there, and how has that influenced the outcomes of the Martinson Honors Program?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to something we kind of discussed very first off, and that is higher education is extremely competitive right now. Like I said, these students have lots of opportunities, lots of places to go, but we recognize the key benefits that come from having a very diverse population, as well as a very strong academic and a strong foundation for our cadets, because we kind of put them through the ringer while they're here, and we need them to be prepared, and we need them to be ready for the challenges they're going to face. So I've taken it on as a kind of a personal passion to use this program to highlight the opportunities that exist. So going back to the conversation that my wife and I have had numerous times over the last 16 to 17 years, and that is, just the opportunities that exist at this academy, and not the opportunities that exist for graduate students or PhD students, but for every single student that shows up here. And I think the Martins and Honors Program just really kind of highlights that. And so I want to use it as this kind of this pedestal to show the opportunities that the students are going to have, and what they can do if they show here and put in the time and the effort and take our program seriously. And it's making a difference when you see some of the places that these students are turning down, the scholarship opportunities that they're turning down because they want to come here instead. That lets me sleep pretty good at night, knowing that we're doing the right things with it.
Excellent. Thank you. So shifting gears a little bit, I think one of the favorite pastimes of our graduates is to talk about how, well, the academy can't be as tough as it was when I was a student, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So tell us a little bit about what today's cadets are like, and why those past generations of the Long Blue Line should be proud of them.
Yeah, so I've heard those arguments time and time again around the dinner table with my wife over the last several years, and I can attest that while the challenges are different, the challenges are still they're there in ways that we couldn't have even imagined 20 plus years ago when I was a student at college, or my wife was a student here on the Hill. And so I think the things that really kind of strike me are the innovative spirit of the cadets nowadays. I love to be an advisor for some of our top students, not only through the honors program, but through the discipline that I called home for the first 4 years of my time here. And I've routinely watched some of these top tier students question and solve and get engaged on problems that I couldn't have even imagined at their age, and in some cases they challenge me in ways that I still am kind of just astonished in. So I think the innovative spirit and the way that they're taking vast amounts of information in is probably one of the key differences. Now, recognize they have stimulus from all sorts of places that we couldn't have imagined. And we hear that one a lot is, oh, they've got their phones. How can you imagine that? In some ways, that's more of a distraction and a hindrance, but they learn from it really quickly. And then they learn from I guess they kind of gather the opportunity, and they capitalize on the opportunities much quicker than I think previous generations may have. So I will retire here in a couple of months, very satisfied that our Air Force and our Space Force are in very good hands. The acumen, the work ethic, the innovative spirit is very, very alive in the students that are going through the academy right now.
That's great. You've talked a little bit about your department, electrical and computer engineering. And actually, I remember this from early in my tenure here, coming to get a brief in your department. And one of the things you talked about is how small the department was from a major perspective when you first arrived, and the growth kind of year over year that the department has seen. How have you made this major popular?
So that's one of the things that I'll probably leave here most proud of is the fact that when I showed up in 2018, I kind of joke and say that the major was a little bit on life support. Electrical engineering has been the number one demanded engineering discipline in the Air Force for 3+ decades. I always ask students to ask me why I chose it, and for me, it was a very simple financial proposition. The Air Force said they'd pay for my school if I chose electrical engineering, and they wouldn't pay for my school if I chose a different discipline. We don't have that same opportunity when it comes to choice of major here at USAFA because we find value in the broad smattering of engineering or of majors and disciplines that we offer, and we recognize that we need to give the cadets choice so that we can keep that strong foundation across a variety of disciplines. But with that being said, I recognize the need the Air Force and Space Force have for our discipline, and I wanted to find a way to ensure that we were producing the students of the caliber that was required. So never made the major easier. In fact, we made the major harder. When I first arrived here, it was 2 separate majors, electrical engineering and computer engineering. We collapsed that down to 1, added a few courses in, and made it a little bit more of a challenging path. But at the same time, we found ways to make the department relevant and exciting. And I think that's a key place where the foundation played a very strong role. Is we modernized the department. We got rid of displays and practices and projects that just weren't very relevant or exciting to the cadets as they're seeing things in the cyber arena or the space arena that are captivating their attention daily in the media or anywhere else they look. We needed to find a way to make this really challenging major relevant to them and exciting to them. So recruiting has been probably the one thing that I've done more than anything. And unfortunately, that all too often takes a lot of resources to make it exciting. And that's where, again, the foundation has just played a key role, is making sure that our department was not only modern, but resourced in the way that will captivate the attention of the cadets. And so we grew from, I think, an all-time low of 15 students in a graduating class, where we're now sustaining levels of 40+ in every class. In fact, the current department head just wrote me right on my way over here and said, we just got our 42nd declaree from the class of 27. I usually was excited if I got to 30 by Memorial Day. That kept me on a pretty good trajectory to get to high 30s, low 40s. But he already hit 42, and we're just now in March, so it's exciting.
That's fantastic. As maybe a follow-on question, and I think there's been a lot of conversation in the last weeks about the direction of the Air Force and the Space Force. Is the growth in the department indicative of the direction of the Air Force and Space Force and the emphasis on STEM?
I think in some ways, yes. I think in many ways the department was kind of hitting way below the level they needed to be hitting for a long time. So we're cautious about the level that the individual department grows to. I think mid-40s is that sweet spot where we can give the students a really captivating experience that allows them to explore the discipline and have the resources they need to make sure that they can be successful in the discipline. But at a larger perspective, the Air Force and Space Force have a strong demand signal for STEM. Now, the good thing is our broad foundational core ensures that every one of our graduates will still graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree. And I've got a really funny story about my time as a squadron commander that I think kind of illustrates the value of that broad foundational core and the strong STEM foundations in it. But beyond that, we have a mission directive from our Secretary of the Air Force that states that the Academy will graduate 50% of every class as STEM majors. And we're hitting that right now. and we're seeing, and I think so much of this comes from the popularity of certain things like the rejuvenated space race, if you will, and obviously the concern over the competition with our near peer adversaries of China and Russia. But also, if you look at how popular the topics of artificial intelligence and autonomy are in the media, I think all of that's helping us. But then what we need to do is make sure that when the students come in and declare these challenging majors, we can make them successful. At the University of Pittsburgh, I declared electrical engineering with 330 other classmates. 32 of us walked across the stage 4 years later with a degree in electrical engineering. We can't have that here at the Academy. Even a 10% attrition ratio in most of these STEM majors is too high. So we need to make sure that we're resourced and capable of giving them that successful experience. And right now we're doing it. So I think it's important that we continue that. But then that broad core is still the bedrock, right? We can't put the major ahead of the core because we recognize that the core is what makes this place unique and special.
Excellent. Well, I think I've shared with you somewhere along the way that I grew up with a grandfather who was a professor of electrical engineering, and those genes were not passed my direction. But anyways, shifting gears a little bit, you've touched on some of the opportunities that you've had in terms of your work with donors and the foundation and how they have directly influenced the work you've been able to do. Could you take a moment to share maybe a story or two and kind of why you've enjoyed that part of your role?
Yeah. So the first one that immediately just comes to mind is it was the holiday season in 2019, and I remember I was driving across the country, and I was somewhere in the middle of Nebraska when I got an email. And my wife was driving at the time, and I got this email that it was signed, and I was like, uh-oh. And the email was specific to NDAA, or the National Defense Authorization Act 2019, being signed. And in that, in NDAA 2019, there was this very specific stipulation that stated that the U.S. government could no longer purchase or use any drones that were made in covered countries. And by covered countries, we really just meant China. Well, the reason that was so troublesome for me as a department head is the one thing that I had that was a great recruiting tool to students was our work inside of drones or small unmanned aerial systems. And in fact, we had one of the key research centers on small unmanned aerial systems. But now all of the systems that I'm using are not only illegal to purchase, but they're also illegal to operate on DoD installations or any government installations. And the key challenge there is while I could purchase a drone that we could use for research for about $1,000 if it was made in China, that same drone, one, didn't exist in the United States. But if I could procure the components that would make a suitable surrogate, it would be 20 times more expensive. So a very basic drone all of a sudden goes from $1,000 to $20,000+. But thankfully, we had some former graduates of the institution that were very passionate about ensuring that our drone research continued, and they enabled us to almost overnight become a leader inside of the DoD on procurement and development of research-based drones or small UAS. And so many other institutions got on board with us as well. All of a sudden, AFIT was following our lead, or the Air Force Institute of Technology. We had stronger collaborations overnight with the other service academies of West Point and Annapolis. But not only that, all of a sudden, new research efforts for the DoD are coming to USAFA because they couldn't be working with some of the civilian institutions out there. So So what was a very terrifying moment in December of 2019 because of the philanthropy from certain graduates, we were able to turn that into a major win. And I would say all of our drone programs or research programs surrounding small unmanned aerial systems are stronger now because of that.
Shifting gears ever so slightly, you've been involved in a number of key programs at the Academy, but one of the programs that you pioneered at USAFA is streamlining the candidacy for early recruitment of cadets for the Air Force Test Pilot School. And I believe you're a grad of said school, and imagine it's near and dear to your heart. Can you tell us a little bit more about Test Pilot School and the candidacy program and why it's so important for the Air Force in total?
Sure. So that was one of the very first initiatives that I started in 2019. So I gave myself a 6-month period to kind of figure out the lay of the land here. But then in 2019, I embarked. It was actually January of 2019. I embarked on this idea that maybe we could ensure that we got higher quality young engineers into this test pipeline by understanding and observing them for the 4 years that they're here as cadets, and then getting them started onto this test career very early on. So the impetus for that came from my time and observations as a squadron commander from 2016 to 2018. What I was realizing is that sometimes I just needed test-minded individuals to kind of run the missions, staff the line, if you will. Yeah. And what we were seeing is they were graduating so late from test pilot school that they were moving on to other things. They were moving on to their professional military education, and they needed to go on and check all the other boxes in their career to ensure that they were viable for promotion. So what we did was we took advantage of the network that we had in place and the strong ties that USAFA has with Test Pilot School. About probably a third to a half of all classes at Test Pilot School are taught by USAFA faculty on a rotational basis. I still go out there and teach twice a year, electro-optics and electromagnetics. And so what we were able to do is take advantage of that and convince them that we could observe top-tier students in a variety of disciplines here and recommend them for admission into Test Pilot School. And so they let us try it. In spring of 2019, they let us appoint our first 2 graduates into the program. And we've been doing it every year since. So with each graduating class, we get together and nominate 2 students to go direct to. They go and get their master's degree first, and then they go and do a small internship at Edwards Air Force Base, and then they enter into the immediately following Test Pilot School class. And I was just out there a month and a half ago, and I was asking the tech director, Mr. Dave Van Hoy, about the success of the program and his thoughts. And he told me flat out that he was a skeptic when I first started it, but he was willing to try it. And he said, but we've made him a believer. And routinely, our students, if they're not the top graduate, they're in the top third of every class, and we've yet to have one that wasn't in the top third. So I think that's exciting, and that's kind of proof that we're doing things right here at USAFA.
Well, we've had the opportunity to touch on some of maybe kind of some of your favorite moments, how some of your work has been influenced by philanthropy. But as we wrap up our conversation, I have two final questions for you. One, you've surely influenced future generations of Air Force and Space Force leaders. What are you most proud of when you look back at your tenure at USAFA?
Yeah, so boy, the list keeps going on and on and on here, and lately I've had a variety of big wins that are making it tough to step into retirement here. But I think the things that I'm most proud of: one, turning the department around, ensuring that it's a healthy and an exciting place for cadets to jump into, and be willing to take that really challenging discipline, knowing that the faculty and the projects and the opportunities that they're going to have there are going to make it worth their time. So I think that's one of the big things. The honors program and being able to find ways to encourage students to choose the USAFA over a variety of the other opportunities that they have. I think that's another big one. But just I think probably the thing that I'm most satisfied or proud of is kind of knowing that we're set up for success for the long term. I think recognizing that the quality of the students that we're getting and the diversity of the candidacies that we're getting, we are representative of every congressional district in the United States, and that's exciting. And we're seeing them be successful here and then go on to very successful careers in the Air Force and Space Force. So I think that's it's a combination of a variety of things, but that kind of sums it up, if you will. So
wonderful. Well, and you are retiring to Michigan. Our understanding where you and your wife Angela, class of '97, are going to run the family farm. I think the big commodities are maple syrup, blueberries, and peaches. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. This sounds like maybe more work than being a cadet. Can we convince you to stick around?
Well, first and foremost, I'm hoping you haven't heard the last from me, right? I intend to find some ways to stay engaged, not only with the academy, but in this line of work. Obviously, I'll still keep some ties to the department even after I'm gone here, because it's a labor of love at this point. And it truly is a passion. But convincing us not to move back to Michigan right now, I think you'll have a pretty tenacious class of '97 graduate that will ensure that that's not going to happen. But no, I don't think you've heard the last from me yet. So,
well, Brian, a huge thank you for joining us today. You have been a champion for USAFA, but also for the foundation and, frankly, our donors, ensuring that the support that they give to USAFA is really maximized and used to the intent that they made the gift for. So our sincere thanks for your work. You'll be dearly missed, and we'll be calling you for some blueberry pies here in short order.
Truly the thanks has to go back out not only to the foundation, but to everybody who is passionate about giving to the foundation as well. We couldn't do our mission without you. And especially in times right now where we've got uncertainty in the federal budgets, the things that we can always count on are the opportunities that are provided via gifts to the foundation, which subsequently turn into opportunities for our cadets. So the thanks goes right back towards you.
Yes, so. I appreciate that. That's all we have for today. Before we wrap up, I extend my sincere thanks to each of you for supporting USAFA. Again, the Air Force Academy Fund and your membership in Sabre Society are critical to our ability to not only support the work of the Foundation and the Association of Graduates, but to support the mission of USAFA. Thank you, and go Falcons.
As Colonel Neff articulated, our cadets are doing some incredible things, and that's all thanks to your generous support of our Academy. We appreciate all that you do to make our Academy its very best in support of our nation. Thank you.